It's the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Here's your host, Matthew Ablan.
Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Queen City Music Podcast. Before getting started, I wanted to take a moment and mention that the QCMP is now partnered with Records on the Wall, Charlotte's live music resource. If you remember, Eric Levasseur from Records on the Wall was featured in episode 20 of the QCMP. He's one of those folks who's working hard to help promote the local music scene here in Charlotte, so I'm happy to partner with him in this endeavor. This month, though, I am speaking with singer-songwriter Lisa De Novo. Lisa can be found performing both as a solo acoustic act and with the Lisa De Novo Band. If you haven't heard of Lisa, she's become a staple on the Charlotte music scene, both through her original music and the various open mic nights she hosts around town. All right, straight in from the road, it's Lisa De Novo. Lisa, how are you today?
Great. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. All right, so big question. Are you originally from the Charlotte area?
No, I've lived here for 6 years and I love it. But I grew up in upstate New York, and then the other half of my life was spent in southern Florida.
Oh, and what brought you down to Charlotte?
My family moved here when I graduated high school, but I had scholarships for college to stay in Florida. So I was like, well, I'm going to stay here for a few years and figure out what I want to do with my life. So it was kind of crazy because normally you leave for college, but like my family left for North Carolina. But I would visit them like from time to time, and I really liked it. But eventually I found that Charlotte was growing and growing, and it was a big city, so I thought there'd be more opportunities. So that's why I moved here. And then my family was here too, so it was like a win-win.
So you were escaping the winter, the family? Were they escaping the winters up in New York?
Well, they did. We were in Florida, so it was like New York, and then that was originally why we moved to Florida. Yeah, and then they ended up moving to Charlotte because I think my dad was complaining about the heat. So it was like the cold, and then the heat, and then it was my mom's family lives here too, so it was kind of nice to be like closer to family. And then the weather is like, it's pretty good here compared to 90 degrees every single day. Yeah,
you get the seasons in Charlotte, even if they are short. Spring is like a week before we hop into summer. So when you got into Charlotte, you realized that the city was growing a little bit, so probably a lot more musical opportunities.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get to that in a little bit because you have a lot of stuff going on in a lot of different areas. But what's your musical background?
For music, I listen to a little bit of everything, but I grew up listening to a lot of Christian music, so bands like PFR, singers like Rachel Lampa, Stacey Orico, and that kind of thing. And then for other bands, we still listen to the radio, so I would like hear Lauryn Hill, and I always think that she was an amazing singer, Mariah Carey. And there's just so many people that inspired me from so young. I watched the movie Selena, starring Jennifer Lopez.
That's a good movie.
That's kind of one of the ones that I was like, oh man, I could see myself doing that. Even when I was like 8 years old, I could feel it. Like I loved to sing. I was just so shy. But I started writing when I was 10. And then I had like 3 different journals of songs. And there's and then one of them, another one that was like a Christmas album. So I was always writing, and then I knew that I wanted to do it. It was just like a question of how, because I was just so shy.
Were you just writing words, or did you have instruments that you
I didn't play anything that young, but I sang and I had melodies, and I practiced with my sister and one of our neighbors, one of my best friends, and got everybody harmonizing together. So awesome. I had like color coded parts for everybody. It was funny. But now I look back at them, I'm like, wow, I gotta go back and like maybe change a couple of the lyrics. But some of those songs I could totally bring back now. That'd be fun.
That's awesome. So you have this, you still have the journals from back then? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I always wrote, like my mom called me the family scribe, and I always wrote like every night in my journal until I was about 22, and yeah, it was just really neat. And then as far as music goes, we were always in church. So my mom sang on the worship team at church. So we were there almost like every day, and they always had us performing some way, like whether it was like an outreach, we would do like a dance performance like in the community, or we would sing like songs and things like that. But we didn't have like a choir. It was more of like a non-denominational, like fun church where it wasn't like too traditional. Okay. But it was cool because we were able to be thrown into performing, even though I was super scared. My heart would always race really fast. But I remember being 11 and singing on Easter and being so freaked out and not remembering like how it went. But then everybody said I did a great job. So that was good. So I've been performing for a very long time and like kind of got thrown into it, but I enjoyed doing it, but I didn't really escape that anxiety, stage fright, like always being afraid to perform until I was like older, like 20.
Right. Do you, just out of curiosity, do you still get that little bit of bug at all?
A little bit. It depends. If it's a bigger show, definitely like more than 100 people, I always get that. Or if it's like I'm performing in Nashville, like that, because there's like a weird magic in the city. So I'm always nervous when I play there. And then certain open mics, even now, if I have to be thrown into it and someone else did a really good job, you always have that like intimidation.
Like,
but
oh man, I better bring it.
You just got to remember to breathe and do what you do best.
That's it. You know what? I find it just kicks into automatic pilot after a little while. You've been doing it so long. It's just like, all right, I'm going to hit this chord and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. So
yeah, and have fun with the audience too. So that always helps too.
So, all right, we talked about your background a little bit. What instruments are you currently playing?
Now I play guitar, a little bit of bass. I play piano, and then I sing, and then I loop vocals, and I think that's it. A little bit of tambourine and harmonica.
So, were you interested in the instrument, or were they just a vehicle for you to do songwriting?
When I was 17, I played the bass in the church youth band.
Okay.
And I sang too, so that was really fun. And then my brother taught me the frets, and he said it was like 1, 4, 5. That's the whole song. So I would like learn it by that. And eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to need to learn what these notes are.
Right.
And then he showed me a few chords on guitar, and then I started just kind of teaching myself. And I thought it was really fun to play and sing. And back then I was just playing covers and songs that I liked, and I never really put the two together until I was in college, and I started writing with the guitar. And now like I can write a song on a ukulele and like, or piano, and like really use any different instrument, and each one has a different feel.
It really, I find doing my own stuff too, if you have a different instrument, it kind of gives you a different take on something you're doing. Like if you're always doing guitar stuff, you're like, okay, this is starting to sound the same. But if you all of a sudden do something on piano, you're like, ooh, that might bring out a different song than what you were doing on a guitar. So is that similar for you? Does that help to playing the other instruments as well?
Yeah, and sometimes you can write the melody first and like nowadays you have like a phone, which is awesome, so you can record your thought and then like play it back later. So a lot of times I'll write melodies first and then put the guitar to it, and then other times I'll play guitar and have like some feel in mind, and then it happens that way too.
Okay, so since you broached the subject, what is the songwriting process like for you? You're saying you're coming up with melodies, you're coming up with chord progressions. Do you have a usual schedule? Do you sit down each day and go, I'm going to allocate an hour or two a day to writing, or is it something that the inspiration's just got to hit you to start writing?
Yeah, usually it's the inspiration that'll hit. So it could be 3 a.m, or it could be like right when I wake up. So it really depends. It could be about something that happened or something that I want to happen. So it's really therapeutic to be able to like put your feelings into a song.
Okay. And now when you're writing, how does it translate into the full song? Or do you have a vision in your head of, you wrote it on guitar, you've got the song, you've got the lyrics, and then you play with the band as well? Do you bring it to the band and say, all right, here's the song, put your magic on it? Or do you start saying, okay, this is what I've got, what do you think? How does that process?
Yeah, with this album that we just did, The Big Bang, I had a big show that I wanted to have the full band on, and then we all got together. It was the Shakedown Music Festival that was happening a couple years back in 2016, and then we got together and practiced a few times, and I just loved everything they did. And if it was ever like, if I had any ideas, I'd tell them, and if they had ideas on switching tempos or anything like that, they would let me know. And we worked really well together. And then I loved the way it sounded. And someone told me after hearing us at the festival, oh, you have to record with your full band. Like, it sounds so great. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So then it was a year later that we finally like made that happen. And I did a Kickstarter for the album to help finance like half of it. And then we worked together in the studio at All Audio Recording for the full band stuff. And then we did, I did 3 of the songs at my home studio which was really cool. It's called Ski Studio.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool to see it all come together because we did the scratch tracks first, which is where you play and sing. And that was the hardest part because you had to play to the click track, but you're playing and singing at the same time and also trying to stay along to the click track. So that was definitely the hardest part, like recording wise, like to get those down. And then once you get them down, then they would do, I think it was like drums first and then the bass and then lead guitar and then kind of just add in like acoustic guitar and all the other elements. And then the vocals would be last. And vocals were one of the hardest things too because I was doing so much at the time. I was volunteering for Girls Rock. I did a lot of gigs happening because it was summertime. I would play like every night of the week. So sometimes I'd have like a late night gig and then a morning studio session. So it was really hard to get those notes out sometimes. And then every once in a while I'd lose my voice. So that was really bad. So I had to kind of plan around that. Okay, how are we going to get this album done? We only have a certain amount of time because we were trying to get it done before September of 2017, so we could start the production of mixing and mastering.
Right.
And
this is the big bang.
Yes. So I ended up like not even finishing the vocals until like early January of the following year. So it was like crazy. And then we had the big Visualite show in May of last year, so May 2018, and then I ended up being able to get like it all done. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Like I wasn't sure how it was gonna work out, but it did. It was just like you just have to keep like working hard and make time. Even like little times where you don't talk, I had to walk around the dry erase board sometimes. But the funnest part was doing the harmonies because that's always really unique because you're thinking, oh, how can I make this sound a little bit bigger? And you have to really dig in like and listen to the song hundreds of times to feel where those might come in.
Did you ever get drowned out by the stuff that you've been listening to? So you've been listening to the same track over and over and you're like, I can't listen to it anymore. I've got to listen to something else.
That would definitely happen. Like even now I have to like take a couple weeks off like of listening to it. But then do you hear it again sometimes, like it'll pop up on your Apple Music Shuffle and you're like, oh, this actually sounds pretty good because like we worked so hard on it. And then we asked people's opinions and we made sure that we were listening to make sure all the instruments sounded clear and it was a really good recording. So even though it was recorded at 2 different home studios and the drums were recorded at Old House Studios, which is a really good studio for that, it just ended up turning out really well. Like, and you can hear everything so clearly. It's amazing.
Well, since you're talking about it and we're talking about it right now, let's take a listen to the track Monkey See, Monkey Do. Was this one of those ones then you brought to the band to do?
Yeah, I actually wrote it slower, and then I had 2 different versions in mind, but I'm glad I went with like the faster version. And with that one, they were able to put in like their own parts to it, and it ended up sounding really cool.
Awesome. And when you recorded it, how much of this got recorded in the home studios and then the other places? How did that come about?
Yes. So for the 7 full band songs, we did those ones at all audio recording in Concord with Jason. And then for all the tracks, we did it at his home studio. The only thing that we didn't do was the drums. Those were at Old House Studio.
Okay.
And then for the 3 acoustic songs, we did those at Ski Studio. That's my home studio. And it was really cool to be able to have the experience working on both fronts and being able to really experience with the harmonies and feeling those out. So that was definitely a fun thing to do. And I'm glad it all came together.
Well, let's take a listen to another track, which is completely different. It's called Cigarette Love Song.
Times, long walks on the beach. When we made love, it was a slow, sweet release. Ooh, the way it tastes, yeah. There's nothing like it in the world. You know. This world. Oh, I wanted you more than anything, but I had to let you go. I was hypnotized by you.
All right, so Cigarette Love Song is a completely different track. It's much more bluesy, and I kind of dig the guitar solo on it. So is the blues in your wheelhouse? Is that normally your kind of style?
Well, I originally started writing like that, and I called it Bubblegum Blues, where it was like a mix of pop, soul, and blues. And I just really like that style of singing and kind of talking about that. And just like the way that the chords come out, it's such a cool form of music. And then for that song, I ended up writing about quitting smoking. So I kind of compare cigarettes to a person. And then it really made a difference to add the full band to that one, because when I play by myself, like, oh, it's good. It's like, it's fun and it's sultry and bluesy. But then when you add the whole like band, it really makes it bigger and better. And Zach Willard's the one who plays the lead guitar, and his solos are just amazing. And he has a really, really cool like rock element to it.
Right.
And then you have Michael Lanigan, who does like really cool funky bass lines. And Mitch Moore is actually a metal band drummer. He's in like 6 or 7 metal bands in towns. And then he plays in a few different original acts too, like my band. And then my younger brother, Nick, plays the piano on some of the songs on the album, and he just adds so much too, because he went to school in U Chicago for musical theater, and he has like that classical background mixed with like I can make it sound fun and full, so it's really cool to have all those elements in there.
So since we're just talking about the band real quick, how did you wind up meeting this group? I mean, other than your brother, of course.
Yeah, I mean, they're all in the scene. Like Michael, I met him at an open mic at the Dirty Hippie.
Okay.
When that was a thing. I miss that place. And then Mitch I actually met through another acoustic artist who used to play in town, and I saw him playing the djembe drum, and then ended up having him play with me on a few of my cover gigs in town.
Okay.
And then I really liked his style, and I found out, he was also in a bunch of metal bands, and he plays full drums. Oh, wow. So it'd be fun to like try him out for to see if that would work out. And then we all got along like personality wise, which was really great, because you never really know. Like someone could be the best musician, but if you don't get along personality wise, like there's that clash, then that's really hard. And then Zach Willard I knew for a while from Tommy's Pub, like the original Tommy's Pub, and open mics there and different music events there. And then Nick came into the mix later when I was like, oh man, we're missing something. Oh, it's piano and background vocals. So he ended up nailing all that, which was awesome. And my whole family sings. My younger brother Nick plays piano and a little bit of guitar, and he used to do a lot of musical theater. And then my older brother sings and plays guitar, and my sisters all sing. Like there's 5 of us.
Okay.
And then my mom and dad sing too. So it's really cool to have like a musical family.
Do you feature any of them besides your brother? You have any
Not
plans to
yet.
have them come on and
I would
do some
love
background?
that. Like someday, we have some YouTube videos out there of like me and my sisters singing like 3-part harmony. But most of the time, I just get like Nick on for like the shows and things like that. And the sisters always help me with like the merch table, and they're super fun and bubbly and sweet. And then my brother always like comes to support front row. It's great.
Nice. All right, so let me ask you a question. We're gonna jump back in the time machine a little bit, because we talked about the Big Bang. We've listened to a couple of tracks, but you actually had a 2016 EP come out, The Stars Align. So, what's different between the songwriting for that recording and then the full length recording on the Big Bang?
For the Stars Line, it was kind of like a preview. It was my first project because I always played a lot of cover shows, and I really wanted to continue on the artist route because I love to write and I wanted people to hear the songs. And I had a SoundCloud up with about like 20 songs on there, some of them covers, some of them originals, but I wanted to be able to have like a physical product to sell at my shows and kind of move forward going the artist route. And then for that one, I did it at Soul Jukebox, which used to be in Noda, and I think they moved out to Kannapolis now, like somewhere north.
Okay.
And that was really fun to do that. And I was like, it was my first time doing the thing, so it definitely took a long time to get it finished. It was like a 6-month process, even though it was only 4 songs, because sometimes their sound engineer would be out of town, and sometimes I wouldn't be up for like I had to plan it really far ahead, and then there's like a lot of scheduling conflicts, but we ended up making it work. And then I released that one at the Evening Muse, and it was really a really fun experience for that because I've never had a show before that people came just to see me, and that was really neat. And I had Todd Murray open for me. He used to live in Charlotte, now he lives in Richmond, still doing the music thing, living the dream. But it was really great, and everyone was really supportive, and I knew that I should keep kind of going that route too. Like even if I still play covers and put my own twist on other people's songs, I wanted to still explore my own songs. And those were definitely kind of raw. There's not that many effects on those tracks for the Stars Line, and most of them only have guitar and vocals. A few of them have some piano, and then one of them has percussion on it done by Eric. He also goes by DJ Skid. He's a DJ in Charlotte. So it was cool to feature a few people on there and then see those songs kind of come to life versus just playing them live or having that one take recording on SoundCloud or something that I would do on my own on GarageBand, and having someone professionally engineer those songs. It is really amazing.
Do you still sell that EP at your shows?
Yes. I only have like 10 more left, but yeah, we still have those for sale.
Will you reprint them once you run out?
I don't know. That's a mystery. We'll have to see. You have to get them while you can.
So if you want to check out Lisa around town, you're always playing shows, but you host a couple of different open mics around town. Can you fill us in about those? Yeah,
we do 4 different open mics in town.
4.
It's me and Jimmy Ski. I know, right? We host at Legion Brewing on Monday nights.
Okay.
And that one's really fun. It's a lot of original singer-songwriters. We do have occasionally comedians, rappers, and people doing random like didgeridoo instruments or like the steel guitar and cool things like that. That'll come out of that. And we have a featured artist every week that's usually a professional musician or an artist that's traveling. And then I do this really fun thing called the word song, where everybody in the bar writes down one word, and then it comes like right before the featured act, so around 8:30. Then we'll do a song out of all those words. So I play guitar and I just make up a song. Usually it's like 30 words, and It's really crazy, but it's always really fun. It's a fun way to like connect with everybody. And we started doing a beer giveaway every Monday. So next to their word, they have to write their name, which is nice so that they can't write anything too crazy. And if they do, I'll know who it is. But then I'll pull out a random name from the hat, and then they'll get a free beer that night.
Oh, pretty neat.
Yeah.
So what about the other ones that you got? So you got the one we were just talking about. What are the other ones?
Yeah, Wednesday night is a new one just started this year called Pour Tap Room. And that one is they're both, all the open mics are 7 to 10.
Right.
And that one is open mic plus karaoke. So
Okay.
that one's kind of fun. And that one has, where the open mic part is mostly in the beginning of the night. Usually we do like 2 to 3 songs with the artists, but
Right.
karaoke is always an option too. But that starts to get more lit at around 8:30. So more people will sign up for karaoke after they had a couple of drinks. They'll try some new songs, and we do a fun thing called karaoke roulette. And that's where they sing a mystery song. And if they can sing the song that we put on the screen, then they get a prize. And we have 10 different giveaways.
Neat.
And some of them are like local brewery giveaways, like pint glasses and T-shirts. And then the other ones are like gift cards for free beer, or like a fun emoji thing you can hang in your car. So it's like real random and fun, and you never know what you're going to get really. But we do make them choose their 2 genres.
Okay.
The audience picks between the 2, so they have an idea of what they're getting into before they do it. So usually they'll be like, oh, rock or like Broadway tunes. And then
man.
you never know like between those. But it's always really fun to see them pull through and actually nail it. And then you're like, whoa, I didn't think you could do that. And then they're really proud of themselves, and they get to take home something cool.
There you go. Oh.
Yeah. And then 2 more open mics.
No,
Thursday
it's fine.
is at Temple Mojo. We also do a featured artist there. So another professional act or a touring act.
So when you have a featured artist, do they have to come in and do original stuff, or they can be somebody who just does
exactly. So they
covers?
can play covers too, like if they have a few songs that they really love, but it's mostly original music, and I love that we're able to like support that with open mics too. And I always encourage people, if they write a song, like please play like those first, and then cover songs are okay too, but we want to hear like the stuff that comes from your heart. It's always really cool to hear that. And a lot of people are supportive, and they're listening, and it's really fun. And for Temple Mojo, we also do the word song there, where I get everyone to write a word, and then it's always different though. Each place, like the words are different, the vibes are different, but Temple Mojo definitely has that homey feel. It's a little smaller. It's right next to a bike shop in downtown Matthews, and the beer's great. They do those like half sizes, so if you want to try more things, you can. And that one's just really, really fun. And then we have the 4th Thursday of the month, a new open mic at Heist Brewery. And if there's a holiday, we might change the date, but all the information you can find on my website, lisadenovo.com, or on the Facebook events if you search Lisa De Novo on there. And for that one, it's at the Heist Brewery Barrel and Arts, and we do 2 songs per act, or 10 minutes if it's like a comedy act or something like that. And then we do live interviews, which is really fun. So after they perform, they get a 2-minute interview. So they never know what we're gonna ask. We're gonna ask some real random invasive questions, but it's really fun to hear what they say. It might be, oh, what's your favorite dessert? Or it might be like something like, oh, what made you do what you do, or where do you work? It could be like just anything like that. It's super fun to hear their responses. And then we do a featured act there as well. And the featured acts play for 30 minutes, and they get a little more like talking time and things like that. And if you're interested in being a featured act, you can email me at lisadenovo@gmail.com, or send me a message on Facebook. That works too.
Very cool. So, all right, so we've been talking about all these open mics that you have going on. It's going to kind of bring me to my next question, because I did see you at the town hall meeting for the music in the Charlotte area. So I've kind of been asking this question for the last few months on the podcast. What's your view of the Charlotte scene? How do you view it? Because everybody has a different perspective, and how they find their spot in the scene, and how the audiences are reacting to them. So what's happening with you? How do you view it?
Charlotte is growing more and more every day. I feel like seeds are being planted right now, and like the flowers are slowly growing. It's great. So there's a real mix. There's like the brewery scene, where you have to kind of keep the audience engaged by playing songs that they like to listen to, and then you can throw in a few originals here and there.
Right.
And that's really cool that we have so many different opportunities for musicians to play at breweries. They're very welcoming, and the vibes are always great. And then there's like the venue scene, which is also really cool, because you have like the Evening Muse, Neighborhood Theater, Visualite, like great venues that are there. And it's really cool to see like the original acts like being supportive. I think it's a very vibrant scene, but also that there's a lot to do. So it's also has like competitive aspects where it's like, oh, I'm playing a show, so are 10 of my other friends. So it's like you have to kind of really work hard on your promoting and tell people like in advance if you really want them to come to this show. And then some places aren't for everybody, so you also have to think about that. Like some people don't want to drink beer, they prefer liquor, or some people don't drink at all, so they prefer like coffee shop type venues.
Right.
So that's something that you have to think about too. And being a musician in Charlotte, though, I feel like it is a great place right now for that. And that people are starting to come together finally after seeing places like Tremont and Dumbledore close. They want that not to happen again, and that the venues will all be successful. And we want that for everybody too. So it's really cool that they're starting like the new Calm thing, the Charlotte Artists League musician thing that they're doing. And then the Music Everywhere has been going around for a few years.
Right.
And that's really cool. They're connecting, like they're bridging the gap from the city to the musicians and having that forum there so people can kind of speak their minds and come together. And I really love that we're kind of like finding a way to make it work instead of it just being like this crazy competitive scene where like everyone's playing everywhere and no one knows like where to go.
Well, it's also hard to just to get to know people because
it's
like,
a very busy city.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just being a musician myself, we were talking before, I was like, I'd love to come see you play, but like, you know, you got a thing going on this week and I'm like, I can't make it. I'm going to be out of town or I'm performing. So like all these groups are playing and it's like, oh, I'm playing the same night. I can't even get to go, you know, check these folks out, which makes it tough as a musician just to get to know other people who are doing the similar things that you're doing.
Yeah, and luckily there's so many people that do support music, so I do see the scene even growing more than it already has.
Right.
And it's just, we need to just keep encouraging people to go out and tell their friends and like find their spots, and really if they like a venue like Evening Muse or the Visualite, to go out and support it, so that way it'll continue to stay there.
Yeah. I mean, getting the musicians out is that's tough, but I find sometimes the crowds are also in Charlotte are kind of strange too. I don't want to knock anybody because I've had some great receptions, and then I've had people who just kind of look at you like they don't even know that they should applaud after a song sometimes, and you're like, it's like this training.
Still getting used to it, yeah. Because in Nashville they have a lot, like it's a lot more supportive. Some of them like go there just to see the live music, and then they'll walk around with the tip jar, and they'll tip the acts. And then in Charlotte, it's not as common that people will do that. Like people know that they should tip, because it's almost like, I used to work in the restaurant industry, so it's almost like you want them to tip you if they like you, but they might not know that's what they should do, or to buy a CD or a t-shirt. So musicians need to make sure that they're telling them and they're connecting with their audience any way they can.
Yeah.
And then I think there's still like some of the places like breweries and things like that, they're kind of throwing music into it, so it's not always like as welcoming. It just depends where you are. So you just have to kind of like stick with it and find your own way to kind of like show them like what you can do, and then maybe like tell a story that helps too. And sometimes you are background music if you are playing like a brewery or a really, really loud late night bar, but then you play like a venue, and that's when they'll like come and watch you, and it's a little more of a listening room, like the Evening Muse. But I think we're trying to, like in Charlotte, it's kind of a mix. So the breweries are becoming a little bit more welcoming, and people are learning, like you said, they're kind of like training. We're in that training phase, like to see if it's going to work.
Which sounds silly, but it's
to
kind
see
of
if
like,
it's like,
I have to applaud after a song?
And to see if they appreciate it. And they don't have to applaud like, you know, every song, because that would be a lot of applauding, especially if it was like a 3-hour performance. But it is appreciated when people do clap, or people do throw in like a $20 bill. You're like, oh my gosh, my night's been made. They really liked me. But that's how kind of we know. So like when servers go and they serve you and clean your table and everything, and you give them a tip, that's how they know. So same thing with music. Like that's something that we haven't really established yet, but hopefully that people will see, and they'll realize that, hey, these tips are paying for that musician's groceries. So and that really helps, because like sometimes you get a guarantee when you're playing out, like a lot of times you will in Charlotte, because the breweries want to make sure they're getting good music, good quality music. And if you're bringing in your PA and you're setting up, you're there for 6 hours, so you're going to need to make sure that you're getting something for that show. And then the tips just kind of help you with all the other extra expenses that you have, like new gear, like getting like extra groceries that week, or like paying your bills. So it really helps to have that there. And I think that it's going to get there. It's just going to take a couple years for people to really like appreciate it more. But it's really cool to see how it's like growing. And I'm really proud of the baby Charlotte scene. Because when I first got here, there was 2 or 3 open mic nights.
Right.
And now there's like 30.
Yeah. I mean, just in the time I've been here about a little over 10 years. Man, the city's grown. And I remember going out and there wasn't any live music, but there wasn't as much. Mm-hmm. And in the last several years, man, it has just exploded. Like there's lots of cover groups. There's lots of original stuff. And it seems like there's more musicians moving here all the time, just trying to get into the scene. I guess the nice part for people like us is we've been here a little while, so we kind of made our connections already, so we can kind of get those gigs. It might be a little tougher for the newer folks getting here, though, trying to find their way into the scene.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, but the best thing you can do if you're a new artist and you're trying to figure out where you fit in is to go network and go to open mics and find your people and like help support each other. And even if I can't go to a friend's show, I try to share it. Just to get the word out, because like with Facebook, a lot of times you have to pay for the promotion if you're not like actively independent messaging people. So it helps to kind of like help each other out, because the more you help each other, the better it's going to be, I think. Well,
there's also some, since we mentioned it, there's some Facebook groups for musicians for the Charlotte area. And there's also, people are starting to get more meetups going. Ryan Williams, who from Time to Fly Music, who was on the other month, Ryan's starting to do a monthly meetup with the House of Funk at the Heist Brewery in Noda. And then someone else has started another Charlotte group. I can't remember the name of it. I think the acronym is CALM.
Yes.
Charlotte musicians, and they're trying to get those folks, just musicians to meet up to get to know one another. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So Lisa, what do you have coming up in the next month or so? So this episode will release in September. So what do you have coming up for the month of September?
Well, we just got back from our coast to coast tour from North Carolina all the way to California and back. So that was really, really cool. We'll make sure to be posting like some videos and updates on there. So you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook for that. Just put in Lisa De Novo. And then we are going to head up to New York City this month, which will be really fun.
Awesome.
We're going to do Virginia and then New York City and then come back. And then we'll be playing a lot locally too. Mostly I'll be doing acoustic shows, solo, and then duo. And then there'll be the open mics too. So definitely check out one of those.
Awesome. And that will bring episode 24 of the Queen City Music Podcast to a close. If you are a musician or otherwise involved in the music scene here in our fair city and would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, you can find the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Play, among other places. So keep a lookout. Until next month, get out there and support your local music scene. Bye.